right, welcome to this week's Ozone Podcast, and I'm joined this week by Jaguars punter Logan Cooke. And Logan, this is your second time around on this. I appreciate you doing this, first of all.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And we'll get the team stuff out of the way early. Obviously, 2-8, not where you want to be. I guess I've been struck this year in talking to the guys about how even though the circumstances are tough, the team still feels together. I'm wondering if you feel that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the main things is back to 22. I hate to rewind all the time, but
Sure.
It's pretty much the same team. You have a few inserted guys, but it's pretty much the same team. So we've kind of seen how. I mean, what were we 3-7 at one point that season?
2-6 and then 3-7.
Right.
Yeah.
So we came back from what looked like to be another type of 18 through 21 kind of season, and then we ended up turning around. So we've seen that. So you get to kind of now the back half of the season. There's still a lot of guys who remember where we were then and where we got to. So there's still a lot of that.
Now, we talked before we got started. You're the longest tenured Jaguar now.
It's crazy. I tell them what I told you. I guess I'm up next.
That's
kind of how it works on a chopping block. But no, it's a blessing. I never thought I'd be here anyway. So to be here this long has been cool.
Now, I think you told me once in the locker room, we were just sort of talking. In 18, you weren't sure you were going to be on the team, right?
Yeah,
for a while.
Well, I didn't know if I was going to stay on the team, so didn't have many looks out of college, professionally wise, and luckily Jody reached out, and that I had a workout with him, and I had a couple other workouts with some teams. Most of them were kind of preseason style, both places that I had a chance to go if I didn't get drafted were they were pretty locked in on who their guy was. It was just more of a preseason kind of leg and an opportunity to punt and wear an NFL helmet. So those were going to be cool anyways. And I ended up, I guess the workout went pretty good and pro day was okay. And I got drafted. And I definitely matured a lot as a punter through my years from 18 to now. In college, when you look at my stats, I was not very good in certain categories. I was not. But luckily, Jody saw something, and I'm forever grateful, to him for getting me here. And 18, I had a few bad games out of the jump, and there was a lot of people.
And you were a little concerned about being cut, right?
I think my first 3 games. Now it was kind of undermined because I think we beat the Giants at New York, then we beat the Patriots at home, and then the Titans at home. So we were kind of 3-0 rolling, but I wasn't punting great.
You loast to the Titans and then beat the Jets, but 3-1.
Okay, I remember we beat the Patriots pretty early too, maybe. And but anyway, so I was not punting great, and it was actually the Jets game that week. I came into where our old facility was at the stadium. We'd walked down this long hallway to practice. You know what I'm talking about. And one day we were walking back out from practice. It was probably like a Wednesday or Thursday of the Jets week. And there were 3 punters walking out with some scouts to go work out. Right. And I remember I was so furious in my mind. I'm just like, what is this? Like, Jody told me I was fine and all this stuff. And I remember Carson Tinker at the time told me, he was like, hey, you're going to be here as long as you're going to be here, whether it's 1 more week or 10 more years. He was like, it's already written, so just relax. Okay. And so that's, I mean, honestly, he don't even, we talked about this when he was here preseason last year. Doesn't remember saying that, but that's something that stuck with me. A ton of things. Yeah, Tink talks a lot. But that was something that stuck with me, and I ended up playing okay that week and kind of, we figured it out a little bit since then. So,
who's the I was thinking about this in the practice field today, so I figured I'd ask you. Who's the better guy at the other job? Meaning, if you had to kick or if Cam had to punt, if Cam Little had to punt.
This is the first year where I think I don't really know.
Okay.
Now before, I kicked in high school and college. Okay. Obviously, I've kicked off here too. So I've always, been kicking. But Cam's a pretty dang good punter.
Is that right? Okay.
Honestly, to fit him into a game today, I think I would have to say Cam because it wouldn't look too odd. But there's a chance I'm going to hit a 65-yarder, and there's a chance I'm going to duck hook it into the bleachers. So it's kind of 50-50 there.
How much time do you guys spend working on the other skill? You do a little bit just because you're sort of the backup, right?
Yeah, my rule of thumb is once a month. Once a month I'll hit a couple kicks, and maybe I hit 1 rep with Mac's our backup holder right now. So maybe I'll get 1 rep in team with Mac, but mostly maybe get 6 to 8 field goals on some sticks off to the side just to keep that fresh and maybe hit 1 kickoff.
Now is that, I've been told through the years, some guys don't like to do the other stroke because it messes up
To an extent,
motion. Is there some truth to that?
But if you watch Cam punt, the way the kicker swings across his body, kind of. If you watch Cam punt, he'll drop the ball inside and swing across to make the ball spiral.
Okay.
The same way when I'm kicking a field goal, I'm very linear. So my field goal swing kind of looks a little funky because I swing straight instead of across my hips.
Because that's the way you punt.
Because
right?
that's the way I punt.
That's your
yeah.
muscle
So
memory.
At this level, you've done it so much, it's not gonna really morph the other. But
and realistically, you're doing it for a one game.
Right.
Like if that happens, you're not in there for the long term anyway. So it's very emergency. So. Can you and will you name your kickers since you've been here?
I think I can. So, all right, are we talking just like in season actually played?
Yeah, guys you've held for
in a regular season. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, start with Lambeau, Kai Forbath, Aldrich, Rosas. We had – these might get out of order here for a second.
21's tough.
Stephen Hauska, John Brown, Brandon Wright, Matthew Wright, Chase McLaughlin. I'm trying to get later now. Riley, Brandon McManus, and then Cam. Did I miss any?
I think you want a smoothie.
All right, I love that. I'll take it. I'll take it. It's crazy the list got that long.
Yeah, but you have a relationship with all those guys, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
sure.
how – and it seems that you're now working with a guy you're going to be working with for a while in Cam. Talk about him a little bit. Just a young kid, obviously, but he's a different cat. He is.
He's a really good kid, man. I know whenever we drafted him, Coach Peterson was talking to me about him, and he was like, just bear with him for a little bit because he talks a lot, and he does, and that's that. That's just from being a young kid, and I love it. I'd rather have him than a stick in the mud, So he's a really good kid, strong leg, small body, but he just rips that thing, and he's a very confident kicker. I forgot who I was telling last week in an interview, but it was you always notice the confidence of a kicker from their kick after a miss, whether it's practice, a game, and the first kick he missed in camp. I'm not sure if he missed one early OTAs or not, but in camp, the first kick he missed in team, the next kick he kicked it so hard.
Okay.
And that's how you kind of see. It's kind of like a pitcher. I pitched a little bit, and like if you're missing the strike zone, you try to aim the ball. Well, then you start missing high and stuff. So same deal with kicking. A lot of these kickers, you'll see them miss a kick, especially in a game. And the next kick, they really try to aim the ball or guide it.
Right.
And even if it goes through, it's not a very powerful kick, or sometimes it'll fade off to the right. But no, he's a very confident kicker. Big leg, and he's hopefully he's here at least as long as I'm here.
Sure.
So.
Do you guys ever get tired as kickers of being sort of called eccentric? The coach is saying you got to bear with this guy, or is that just something you sort of embrace of, hey, that's part of it? There is a little bit. You got to be a little different to do what you guys do.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, personally, I was quarterback and stuff in high school, and I've always been involved there. I kind of, the older I get, I don't, I'd love for everyone else to make the tackle, but I'll still, throw my head in there when I have to, and I like hitting people too. So for me, I've always been a ball guy, kind of the same deal with Ross. Yeah. Ross was obviously a linebacker at Baylor and morphed into a snapper. So for me, I still feel like I might not look like it, but I still feel like I'm a ball guy. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel that as much. But I know, for instance, a guy like Cam, like a lot of people try to ruffle his feathers all the time, just messing with him, and I don't think you can.
Gotcha. So. What I was going to ask you about the athleticism of it, and it's funny. In the time I've covered the league, I've dealt with so many punters. Most of them are good athletes. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's sort of a misnomer that it's not. Why do you think that is, and do you agree that punters are very underrated athletes for the most part?
Yeah, the game today has kind of definitely turned into that. I think personally, I didn't watch a lot of NFL football growing up.
Right.
Just growing up in the South, it was SEC was kind of the deal there. And so looking back now that I've been in the league and seeing old punters and even kickers, honestly, there was kind of punters and kickers punted and kicked because they weren't athletic enough to play other positions. Well, nowadays you're seeing that a lot of people are figuring out, like, for instance, me, I want to be an NFL college quarterback, and I realized very early I was not good enough to do that. So I had to find a way for me to get into college and play in the SEC, and that was punting. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of that. Coordinators are loving fakes. Coordinators love an athletic guy who they don't have to worry about catching a snap back there. They're obviously holding for field goals too. Punters are. And yeah, it adds an extra cover man too if you have a guy who's not afraid to get in there a little bit.
How much pride do you take in the holding? Because it seems like that's something that's pretty underrated for you.
Yeah.
Very consistent at that spot.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. That's probably the most stressful part of my job by far.
Right.
I grew up calf roping, so in the team roping world, you have a header and a heeler.
Okay.
And these guys can travel hours and hours to go to a roping, and if the header misses, the heeler don't even get to play. So that's kind of the way I feel.
Okay, you got to back up and say which
okay,
is which.
all right. So I grew up calf roping, so I didn't really ever team rope competitively. But you have a header and you have a steer that comes out, and the header's on the left side of the steer, and the heeler's on the right. And I know a lot of people have no idea what I'm talking about. But the steer comes out of the box, and the header ropes the horns of the steer, pulls him off to the left, and
okay, got you.
Right, and then the heeler gets those rope on the back 2 legs, or a leg, preferably 2 legs, and for a better score. And when they dally off and stretch the steer tight, well, if the header misses, then it's over. So that's the way I feel with holding is obviously Ross is money all the time, so I feel like it starts with me. He's kind of he's automatic, but for me catching a snap, if I don't present it how it's supposed to be, then Cam, he can make it work, but if it's bad enough, he don't have a shot. So I try to take a lot of pride in that to be the best I can for him.
So more stress for you when you're holding than punting, because you feel like punting you can control it.
Well, it's not. So the stress is more I'm controlling this man's destiny, so to speak, right? All right, so in college, I don't know if you want me to do this, but I'm going to go back. In college, I had a lefty. I think he transferred from another school, and we had a righty who had been there for a little while, and they were going to compete. This is my senior year.
That's tough.
Yeah, going into my senior year. And I'd never held for a lefty ever.
Right.
And I feel like the lefty was a very talented kicker. Whether he was better than the righty, I don't know, but on sticks, super talented guy, kicked the ball very far. And I just could not hold for him. And I would tell him all the time, like, after every field goal set, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm really ruining your opportunity to play here. And sure enough, he did not win the job. And
there's a Justin Tucker out there somewhere that never got a shot.
That's him. And he knows who he is. So if he hears this, I'm sorry.
But it's a complete reversal of instinct. Like a different hands doing different things. So you got it makes perfect sense. Tell me about Ross.
Yeah.
How good is he? People don't always pay attention to that job, but obviously all pro for a reason.
Yeah, I mean the kid he's unbelievable. I know some people might hear me saying the snapper's unbelievable and think it's crazy, but
sure.
If you know football and understand the long snapper position, it's usually you have punter, kicker, and then usually the way people look at it is the long snapper. That's just kind of. But Ross he led our team last year in special teams tackles. He had a strip tackle and recovered the ball. He's very obviously very sound in protection and stuff and knows ball. We always joke that we call him the Jeff Saturday of the punt team. He's always pointing people out and whatever. But no, between him and Dewey sitting there at PP in center and snapper, they pretty much kind of control the interior A gaps on punt pro, and that's. I mean, them two, they're like this.
Yeah.
And, so he's a great player. And I think playing linebacker in college helps that a ton. My snapper in college played tight end for a couple years before he hurt both knees and had to snap. Right. And so I've always been blessed to have very athletic snappers. And he's pretty good.
Gotcha. How much time do you spend practicing holding versus practicing punting? Is it fairly even, or how does that work?
Used to. When I got to college, I knew how to hold, but I wasn't holding. Dak held the first year I was in college. And then the next year I started holding. And I did a lot of work back then, mainly because the stress, because in high school I always kicked, so I obviously never held.
Right.
And, so holding was new from the standpoint of doing it in a game.
Right.
So I did work a lot, did a lot of jug stuff, a lot of work there. But I'm a big, don't overthink it kind of guy.
Okay.
So now that I've got to this point, I just try to, Ross snaps a good bit during the game and pregame and stuff and on the side and in practice. So I get my work there with him, but I just try not to overthink it.
Gotcha.
But
Better holder, you or Dak?
Oh. Well, I have a video.
That's where you got him?
I mean, yeah, I took his job, But no, I have a video. I kicked one kick in college, one field goal at Kentucky. Right hash, I think it was like 42, 47-yarder. And, I mean, just yanked it in the tunnel.
Okay.
And
Dak's the holder?
Dak was the holder.
Okay.
Look, I was not a great kicker either, and Dak's not going to hear this, but he obviously unbelievable college quarterback and everything. But I will say the hold was a little off there. No, he had way more important things to do than worry about holding.
I got you. What would the veteran, the most tenured Logan Cooke, tell the rookie?
This isn't going to be as in-depth as
because the veteran's seen some stuff now.
Yeah.
So.
I'll give you two answers. One answer is the football answer, and that is don't try so hard. I think the biggest thing I had as a rookie, I was still trying to hit these 5-0 balls, hitting the ball 60 yards, bombing the ball, and what I've learned kind of now into the game is a little later is if I just play keep away with that guy, the game's way easier. Okay. So for me to used to, it was me punting against the football, hypothetically, is the way I looked at it. I'm trying to punt this ball as high and far as I can, right of center or left of center. Well, now the game's morphed into, for me, mentally, is how can I take that guy out of the game completely?
I see. Okay.
Whether it's,
So you're almost defending the returner rather 100%. Than punting. Okay.
Yeah. And some games, if you're playing a really good returner, you might just understand, hey, this week we're not going to net 55 yards or 50 yards this week.
So while everybody else is looking at average and net,
and
you're looking at how to defend the return.
Yeah, and net obviously plays into a role with that. And you got to have good gunners, great cover guys, protection guys. But, and again, they do such a good job protection-wise where I just get to sit back there and think about this stuff.
Right.
And there's several times the returner's back there, and he might be shaded this way a little bit. So then I try to do something the next punt that tells him I'm going this way, but we go this way. And it changes the game a lot from instead of just trying to hit bombs all the time. And if you hit your A-ball mishit is not great. But if you're just trying to hit your B-ball every time, then your B-ball mishit is a little more controlled.
Makes sense, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sure.
Last week, for instance, this past week, pretty windy game, had like a hard crosswind. I feel like rookie Logan would have struggled because I was just trying to drop the ball very high and still bomb it. But I had to understand that game. I'm probably not going to be able to just pinpoint the ball on the sideline this week because of what the wind was doing. And
you're probably not getting special teams player of the week in that one.
Yeah. Right, but
that could be
so I have to figure out this is where like the banana ball comes into play. Crossfield, like end over end punt, a low liner ball, like these things come into play in windy games where it's like rookie Logan didn't have those clubs in his bag, so the punting was a little more difficult in the wind. Sense. The more in-depth answer, I think, would be just enjoy the finer things of life. I'm a big love life kind of guy.
Yeah.
And
I feel that.
Right. And where I'm at now, and I think this comes obviously from playing a good bit in the league, but I have a lot of understanding of the scripts already written for me.
Sure.
And so whatever the story is, like he's already planned it out. So I just gotta have fun and enjoy it and not stress about the little things, I mean, 7th year Logan needs to hear that too. So
yeah. I think we all do. So the last thing we do is the Ozone 5. It's 5 quick questions. Logan Cooke, what was your last binge watch?
I watched a lot of YouTube.
So did I.
Golly, what would be my last binge watch? I watch The Office every time. I just keep running The Office over. Yeah, I do run The Office over.
The last song you heard this morning on the way in?
I listen to podcasts.
What podcast you listen to on the way in?
Oh, I listen to several. I listen to Masio Gamekeeper's podcast. I listen to Pat McAfee's podcast, his show all the time. And I listen to another Masio podcast, Cuz Strickland's Fistful of Dirt. It's all hunting, land management podcast. So shout out to those guys at Masio.
And the Ozone podcast.
And the Ozone, yep.
Best punt you've ever hit?
It's got to be a couple weeks ago. The Green Bay game. I don't think I'll ever.
Right. That's out of the park home run.
For sure. I'll never try to up that one for sure.
Right. Now, is that one where you're going after it, or does it just happen?
Yeah. So there's points at the field where it's so for me, if the ball in my mind, if the ball is on the 30 to 35 yard line,
okay,
I can rip away.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
There I'm aiming at the pylon pretty much, whether I'm going right or left. And if we get a good kick and it goes out the one where it's a hypothetically 70-yard net, if the ball's the 30, but if it goes in the end zone, it's a 50-yard net. So you're really trying to take advantage of the opportunity there. Now we get to the 40 in that range. I'm really trying to keep it more towards the 8 to 12-yard line. Just
so that punt's almost like a hole in one.
Yeah, pretty much in my mind. Yeah, I've had several punts where I hit that, and the ball's not as far. And there was a couple other punts that game. We were same part of the field where I dropped the ball a little inside, so it was a good punt, but it landed more numbers and kicked right in the end zone instead of landing over there like the other one did.
Yeah.
But that ball too was a show right. The returner was cheating right a little bit, and we yanked it to the left, and he couldn't get to it. So that's the keep away aspect too.
You say you grew up playing quarterback. What's the first touchdown you ever scored? Do you remember it?
Honestly, I probably ran it. We didn't throw the ball a ton.
Okay.
But I also played receiver my senior year and some of my junior and senior year. And we had another guy come up that was a better quarterback than me, which I accepted that as well. And so I scored some touchdowns there too, but definitely probably running it.
Best football memory?
Golly, I would have to go Chargers.
Okay.
Chargers 22.
Just being part of that moment.
Yeah, so. It was a very cool moment. It was from Riley hitting the game winner to us being down so bad and seeing the team like rally and playing one of my only night games in Jacksonville. It was pretty fun. It's very special.
Cool. Logan Cooke, I always enjoy talking to you. I can't thank you enough for doing that in a busy week. Thank you for joining the Ozone Podcast.
Oh, thank you.